Our freedom is in a lot of surrender. So just try to honor that every day and try to just be with it as much as you can. Don't say like, I have to be feeling like this or I have to be feeling like that, just like be in dialogue with yourself as much as you can, and it might surprise you what comes out, so.
And do drugs.
And do drugs, no. I'm not, just because legalization is now such a thing, I don't want to be the guy on camera that's like, yeah, do all the drugs,
Except we're just going to edit that part,
yeah.
So that's all you say.
Cool. Right, just like over and over again as interludes. That's wonderful. Wow, my family are going to love watching this video now. Yeah, no, it's all good. I've been exposed. I'm here to be exposed.
So you reached out to me, and the reason you did that was because you said we were lacking certain representation in this series. What was that?
Yeah, so for those who don't know, I was born with a disability. It's called cerebral palsy. So I was born at 2.5 pounds, I think 3 months early. It's a neurological disability that when you're that small, you don't generate enough oxygen to your brain to develop properly. So for me, it affects how I walk. And I reached out to you just because I, honestly thought that, like, if there's anything that we haven't been talking about in terms of masculinity and representation, it's men that are disabled and sort of the stigma and taboos and ways in which we don't let that enter the conversation, or at the very least we don't know how to talk about it. So
then when you hear a term like toxic masculinity, there's been a cultural lens put on an outdated version of masculinity, one that we want to grow away from. But you're not saying that all masculinity is toxic.
No, not at all. I think like there's ways in which toxic masculinity isn't just about men. Like I think there's ways in which like toxic masculinity is also upheld by women too, systemically, in terms of, just playing by certain rules and certain unconscious programming that is all about competition and dominance and consumption. And I don't know, I just think like the toxic masculinity that we're coming to define is heavily based around like trauma and entitlement and holding up like this, if you live in a boy's world and you're never told no, then the first time someone says that to you, it's like your whole world is undone. But it's not to like draw any asides or make room for people that are, wrong, like morally. There's definitely a lot of bad men out there, as we can, see in the media, and abuses of power and stuff. But I think there's a difference between having power and having power over people. Like you can have power and wield it in a way that's of service and honors that truth, rather than just having power over people to manipulate, extort. And I think toxic masculinity is that kind of power over other people.
When I say mental health, what comes to mind for you?
I've learned more and more like to learn how to be more connected to my body, because I think for many years I intentionally disconnected from it because I was ashamed of like my body, because I felt I was faulty or I didn't work right. And, to be a man in the world is to be physical and athletic. And I grew up in a small town where everyone were runners and football players and all that. And it's like, okay, where am I? Where do I fit in this, So
what in your life has had a profound impact on you and kind of this shift?
I mean, I would say heartbreak not to sound like a cliche, but heartbreak has definitely informed a lot of my transformations around what it means to be a man, to feel betrayed, to feel manipulated, abandoned, to be in an abusive relationship and then come out on the other end and be like, oh, like there's something knocking at my door here for me and how I'm actually betraying myself. There's a lot of ways in which like my ego is played out, and not in the way of like, I think I'm better than everyone, but I'm actually think I'm less than everyone unconsciously. And like victimhood in itself is ego, we usually talk a lot about the other side, which is narcissism and entitlement and all that, but staying in the chain to the narrative of victim, there's so much ego in there. And I remember, the psychedelics that I have done have always been in like a therapeutic or like a very controlled group setting. And, being part of the Burning Man community, you sort of are exposed to a lot of that. And some of it I agree with and some of it I don't. But I think in terms of those experiences, like it was almost like my mind, the judgment filter on my mind just shut off. It was just like, yo, like, this is how you move through the world. Like, you are different from other people. And this is how people look at you. And I could it was almost like I became a third person in my mind on MDMA, where I could look at things and be like, oh, like now that I have acceptance and love for myself and I can hear the narrative that plays out when other people look at me, is that actually real or is it me? Like, am I conducting this narrative? Is it, when I'm walking around or when I go into a club or this or that, when I go out with a partner, like, is my feeling of insignificance being projected at me, or am I projecting that onto other people, right? To be right. And I think like it started to open me up to the possibility of like, do you want to be right all the time or do you want to be free?
Are you the man you want to be now?
That's a loaded question. No, I would say I'm not. I would say I'm more attuned to what I could be. I think I'm honoring my truth more than ever. I think sometimes my truth is not all about being professional and being real, but I think I'm integrating all sides of myself more than I ever have, because I'm uncoupling that from my past and shame and stuff. I think I'm on the right path. Again, like, nothing, Jon Snow. Like, that is literally my vibe, where I could wake up one day and be like, I think I know, but then I'll have something happen and be like, I don't. And it's just about being comfortable with that. So who knows where being a man will take me, but I'm excited for the journey. Is this the part where I submerge myself in the water and we just do a hard cut? Like, do I signal to God or something?
Whatever feels right for you.
I actually never noticed how these bath bombs explode like that. It's cool.